After a marathon of talks throughout the night in Brussels, European leaders have forged a hard-won agreement on migration today. European leaders had struggled to overcome deep divisions on the issue. The meeting in Brussels was dominated by a 9-hour dinner. It underscored how Europe's 2015 spike in immigration continues to haunt the bloc. Under the deal, closed migrant centres would be set up in EU states to process asylum claims. They also agreed to tighten the external border and increase financing for Turkey, Morocco and other North African states to prevent migration to Europe. For more on this, we crossed our correspondent in Brussels, Jack Parrock. Good afternoon, Jack. Migration was not the only issue on the agenda. Brexit also continues to be a big talking point.
It did indeed. The Brexit discussions were concluded in around a minute, however, and signed off straight away because at the moment all this summit was about really was migration, and the Italians were threatening to scupper the whole deal essentially if they didn't get support from other European Union countries. And essentially the other EU nations did say that they would set up these processing centres and support the Italians. The Italian Prime Minister, a new Prime Minister who was voted in on an anti-immigration platform, saying that Italy is no longer alone.
The Italian Prime Minister has been known to have quite a hardline stance on immigration. Do you think that influenced the rest of the leaders who were there in the EU?
It certainly did. There was a strong concern that the Italians were literally going to end the whole summit without any agreement at all. And that could have provided a lot of concern across many parts of the European Union, in Germany for instance, but also in the Mediterranean Sea. We've seen over the past couple of weeks 2 rescue ships stranded with hundreds of African migrants on board, unable to dock in Italy because the Italians said they wouldn't allow it to dock until there was European unity. We'll have to wait and see whether they will open their ports, whether this deal is in fact enough in practical terms to allow rescue ships to do their operations, because many rescue ships in the Mediterranean have not been saving people over the last couple of days because they haven't had anywhere to take them over concerns about that.
Jack, do we know when some of these decisions that were taken at this EU meeting will be implemented and when we can see some certainty in the issues that you've raised?
At the moment, most of it, when they come together on these things, are political agreements. So we know that, for instance, $500 million, which is about 6.8 billion rand, will be transferred to the EU Trust Fund for Africa. That's one of the ways the European Union wants to prevent migration from sub-Saharan Africa into the European Union, essentially by developing and providing security in African nations where perhaps some of the people are leaving from. And also they want to look at this idea of setting up processing centres in North African countries as well. There's a lot of legwork to go, but what the European Union has managed to do at this summit, although perhaps not being able to put anything practically into motion, is to show unity of the leaders, which was what really everybody needed here. This issue could have really had big ramifications for many of the founding principles of the European Union, including free movement within the EU's border-free Schengen zone.
Jack Parrock coming to us live there from Brussels, giving us an update on that EU meeting.